Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of On the Record. I'm Alex, joined by my co-host, as always, Tanner. Tanner, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm doing great. I'm excited to dig into this topic and add our third guest here. Our guest.
Be our guest.
I'm happy to be a guest on this podcast. I've always wanted to be on this podcast. I'm glad my dreams are finally coming true this evening.
And it only took a guy dying for you to get on the show.
Only took the death of an American legend to get on this show. So we are going to be talking about Brian Wilson. Well, I guess I'm going to be getting educated about Brian Wilson. Wouldn't it be funny though if it turns out I was the biggest Brian Wilson fan all along? Stay tuned to find out if that's the case, folks. Tanner, why don't you bring us in, or Alex can, whoever thinks they're going to be able to explain better to the folks kind of what we're going to try to do here.
I think overall the goal is, like you talk about, Brian Wilson's an American legend. He's an American genius. He's a genius composer. He was, I don't think it's hyperbole. I can't remember who said it, but he was the American Mozart. Truly, like when you get down to one of the things I'm most interested in talking about, which is like the music theory and the musicality of it and the way he understood rules and conventions and like chord structure and like all of the music theory made so much sense to him that he could just dial it in and create these sounds and create these songs. And they just like pushed pop music in such an elaborate direction. And then unfortunately coupled with like some of the things that happened in his personal life, it took kind of a darkest timeline thing, right? Like you have a genius who's horribly mentally ill, continues to make this music while he battles his disease. So it doesn't necessarily like conquer the mainstream maybe the way it could have and should have. And the reason I bring that up is because for the longest time for me, the Beach Boys was the goofy surf stuff. Round, round, get around, I get around. Like that. Like that was the Beach Boys for me. And I'm like, that's just not terribly interesting. Everything changed, and I'll rush him on this, and I'll give Tanner the baton. But everything changed a couple years ago. We had a roommate, we had a friend, and as Tanner will tell you, this was the genesis of the Beach Boys of it all.
Yeah, it just became like late 20s hearing these sounds I'd never like heard before. We're talking about like albums like Wild Honey, Holland, which we won't talk about as much because Brian Wilson is involved in Holland, but that was like the jumping off point to like diving into the Beach Boys as like an adult, and not like when I was a kid on my iPod, I had fun. You have like all the surfy stuff, right? Never did I know that like it went this deep, and it's like American Mozart. You could compare them as like the American contemporary of the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
As so did the Beatles. The Beach Boys stepped up their game, and back and forth they went for a little bit there. They served back and forth to the point where Mike Love, I hate him, but he got co-writing lyrics on Back in the USSR with the Beatles on the White Album. Mm-hmm. So like they served the ball back and forth, but the music, the definition of like a sound, like what did California sound like in the 60s? Okay. They give you we all wear the same color shirt, we strum the same guitar, blah, blah, blah. What happens when those guys start to grow up? What happens when those guys start to experience real life stuff? And that's where the Beach Boys music, for me, they start to experiment with drugs.
Only a little. Dibble dab here and there.
Just a little. But again, and Brian, like the most tragic character of them all, with what he all went through, like discovering this band and like always like finding newer and newer stuff. And like, granted, it was more of like kind of the depressing stuff. Surf's Up, not like a super happy album.
Yeah, that Surf's Up was not what I expected. I saw the name of that song and knew it was like a Beach Boys song, and it was not what I thought that song was going to be.
So yeah, but like to kind of put a bow on this, it's just like we lived the Beach Boys music as like a friend group, like 2 or 3 years, kind of just like Beach Boys always, and a Beatles resurgence happened at the same time too. So it was like a nice little hand in hand, and that's when the Costello explosion kind of happened as well. For me, at least, was in that same time window. So where do you begin? Where do you begin with Brian? Where do we start? Do we want to start with like, I don't know, Geoff's early thoughts of like what he thought the Beach Boys kind of
Yeah. So my dad was like, Beach Boys were around, like that was my dad's heyday, was like the 60s. He was born in 49, so like he became a teenager in the 60s and then through the 70s. So like Beatles, Rolling Stones, The Who, the Beach Boys, Creedence Clearwater Revival, like all these bands were like, he was there for the heyday, just like we were there for the heyday for like Tanner for You, like Foo Fighters, that kind of, like that was his version of that. I was just mentioning your favorite band.
That's
so
not
and
no,
trying to you're getting derailed. You're getting derailed by the aside here. Okay, that's not the point. It's okay that you like the Foo Fighters, and it's okay that you always have.
For liking Fish, that's fine.
Well, that's new. That wouldn't have been relevant here. So I'd always listened to Beach Boys growing up. So, but it was always like Barbara Ann, or whatever, that like all of that kind of surfy kind of stuff, and I liked it. Like, it's fun music to listen to. And then when I got a little older, and started to kind of get into music more and started to play music and learn guitar and stuff, I kind of realized, one, I had more of a respect for the Beatles, right? Because there's just more going on than at first you kind of hear. There's key changes you weren't aware of. There's, I don't know about different time signatures, but there's certainly, as they got later in their career, like things got funky, things got weird. They got experimental. And one thing I always noticed about the Beach Boys was just the harmonies, right? I feel like that was kind of the most famous thing about them, but I never really gave it a lot of thought about like who came up with that stuff. I kind of knew the names Brian Wilson and Mike Love, but probably from Full House, when Uncle Jesse would like play with the Beach Boys, is probably the extent of my knowledge of like who the Beach Boys were.
And he was like a legit member in the 90s. John Stamos was a legit member of the band.
Yeah,
which
that's it.
Is a terrible, awful.
Probably says a lot about what was going on in the 90s for the Beach Boys, honestly. But I never really like appreciated even Brian Wilson. I had a little more of appreciation for the Beach Boys in general, but I didn't really dive into any of the music. I certainly hadn't listened to Pet Sounds. And then I got this playlist from you guys and went through and listened to these songs. I'm like, holy shit, this I was not doing well for a long time. The song Surf's Up that Tanner already mentioned. Like, I'm thinking, okay, I'm about to get out of this kind of like depressive slog. This song's called Surf's Up.
No.
This is starting kind of slow. Oh, this is staying kind of slow. This is kind of sad. Like, when's the big wave coming? When's the triumphant moment coming? And it just never came. It never came. And that song, I think, is when it really clicked for me why people say the things they do about Brian Wilson and why the terms like tortured genius, gets thrown about for him. Because throughout this whole thing, what I heard were, some instrumentation that I thought was just kind of jarring and everything, but it's like it was never so bad that I couldn't stand it or anything. And it was clearly in the service of innovation, of trying to do something new, something people hadn't heard before, and not really letting the result get in the way of the process, I guess, so to speak, is kind of the sense that I got from it. The harmonies, I think they're known, and Alex, you'll be able to speak to this a lot more, but there's a certain there's a certain description of how they do their harmonies and like how the notes sit compared to each other that was like very unique for them. I don't know if I think there was like a specific name for that, and I can't remember what it is. I don't know if it's something you'd heard.
I don't have all of the music theory for it to like completely understand exactly. Like we talk about like there's Mixolydian scale and stuff like that. I just don't have the music theory.
Yeah.
But yeah, the close harmonies, the intricate harmonies, things that were like present from the get-go in the earliest music is great. Like all of that, that's all great. You love the woo, it's wonderful trick. To then have the exact same experience for me as people in the 60s did when Pet Sounds came out, where there became a paradigm shift in your personal awareness of the Beach Boys and what they could do. So same thing for me. My whole life grew up being like Beach Boys are I Get Around and you know, that kind of stuff. Great, whatever, gimmicky surf stuff. To then have Tanner text me and go, "Yeah, listen, you have to listen to this album by the Beach Boys." And I go, "Oh God." And it was Friends. You threw me right into the deep end and you were like, "You have to hear this album. This is the Beach Boys." And I don't remember what album it was that your roommate played for you that kicked it all off, but you threw Friends at me because I think you knew full well that that was gonna get me. And that's not even like an all Brian tour de force. It's just such a weird, wild, short, conceptual 1960s pop album that I never could have ever anticipated would exist based on what I knew about the Beach Boys before that. So that to me is when like you really stand up and you go, all right, got to start digging in, doing the research. How did this paradigm shift happen? It's Brian Wilson. It's, you know, the Wilson brothers had this strict father who like a lot of great stage fathers do, like really rode these guys, and Brian just had the aptitude, he had the gift. And once he figured out like what are the conventions in music, if music is mathematics, because in a certain sense it is, once I like understand the mathematics of music theory, I can make it do whatever I want. I can apply it in whatever way I want. So I'm not just throwing weird sounds. I mean, like, you know, there'll be like random car horns and songs and stuff like that. And it's not just wacky for wacky's sake. There's a reason that he's adding that into the mix. Nothing is an accident. Nothing is, wouldn't it be funny if he knows what he wants and he knows exactly how to translate it? And you can argue whether or not you personally like the song. But when you strip it down in terms of like the composition, the arrangement, just like the sheer, like the genius that goes into every element of creating a song, it's not hyperbole to say he was a genius. Not everything he did was, but he was a genius. And I see it particularly like the song I was the most gassed up for Geoff to hear, and I hope it made an impact, was This Whole World from Sunflower, which people sleep on Sunflower. Sunflower is a really great album, actually. And I listen to that song and I'm like, this is the most complex thing he's ever written.
There was a few, so the album that I really, what was the name of the album? Sorry. Oops, I started playing a song. It was the one that had, and I can't see zoomed in enough here, but the one with Be Here in the Morning, that album.
Friends.
Yeah. So that album, those selections from that one probably were my least favorite, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think so, but that's now there's plenty on this whole thing that I liked a lot. And I think just really Busy Doing Nothing I thought was good because it was just simple. It was just kind of like funny, like tossed off kind of thing. And it was exactly like what it sounded like. He's busy doing nothing. So he's like, oh, I guess I'll do this thing. And I guess I'll do that. I don't have much else going on. You know, it carried the attitude I felt like it needed to, matched up with the lyrics. Like it was a very clever song. And I think probably one of the like simplest things that he wrote on this whole thing. Because it didn't involve a lot of, you know, I don't really think there was a lot of harmonizing on that song. It was really just kind of a solo song. You know, I did like the Wild Honey stuff. I thought that was all pretty good. Really like the Pet Sounds stuff. So I have listened to that whole album. So a lot of those songs are just really, really good. And I can understand how revolutionary Pet Sounds probably was in that time. Because at that point, you were getting some like real deal, like rock and roll, you know, and there was some like really, you know, things were going electric, and it's like there was like things were happening in a kind of edgier side of the music. And then you hear, I can imagine what hearing Pet sounds and hearing those harmonies and hearing the song like God Only Knows. And just that in comparison with like everything else that was coming out, it had every bit of kind of like anger and edge as, you know, some of the rock music coming out then, but it had the same like shine and gleam as a lot of that kind of like Laurel Canyon and kind of those things that were coming out from that side too. You know, where it was like the, you know, Crosby, Stills and Nash and things like that. It was like very polished, you know, acoustic kind of music. I felt like it was a really good balance of that. It was like, okay, it sounds really nice to draw you in, but we're about to talk about some real depressing shit here, guys. And just to have that sort of honesty in that time period, you know, I don't know if there was a ton of other people doing that sort of thing, but it felt very emotional and like very honest. And when I listen to music from that time period, I don't really hear the same things from the other stuff.
Well, Beach Boys to me is interesting. You don't want to oversimplify it, and I don't necessarily want to like hammer like mentally ill, everything was dark and depressing, because it wasn't. But the Beach Boys are an interesting case because if you look at each member, your strongest element of your band is your composer, is Brian Wilson. He doesn't like touring. He doesn't necessarily like performing live. He's your guy that you want operating in the studio, creating these songs and quarterbacking their execution. And when you see him get to do that full out on something like Beach Boys Love You, it can go to some crazy places, and we'll get there. But your QB is the guy that wants to be behind the scenes in the studio producing all of this stuff. You don't have an especially strong singer. What you have is an interesting one in Carl Wilson. Brian Wilson and like when Al Jardine jumps in, like they can hold their own. Dennis had like an interesting kind of thing going on, didn't sing a ton. Really, Carl Wilson was your guy. I don't even bring up Mike Love because we always take my car because it's never been me. Like he's
out.
In addition to being the dirt worst human being, he's the dirt worst part of the Beatles or the Beach Boys. God damn it, Geoff.
Yeah. See what I'm saying?
You to hell.
It's their fault.
Thank you. It's Mike Love's fault. And you know, so like you really the like blow your hair back element that you have for the Beach Boys is Brian Wilson's composition, which takes away none of the individual talents. You know, Dennis and Carl both released their own music that is like, for Carl, it's pretty fun, and for Dennis, it's pretty weird and experimental. One of the best songs on Surf's Up was not written by Brian Wilson. It's our good old buddy Bruce Johnson. Like, so like there were
Disney Girls.
Yeah, Disney Girls, baby. Which we couldn't include on the playlist for that reason. It's one of the best songs on the album. Brian Wilson had nothing to do with it.
Oh well.
So there were individual contributions, but take Brian Wilson and his composition out of the equation, and as we see throughout the band's history, like they suffer, they struggle. And I think I said I didn't want to hammer it, but the mental illness thing changes the trajectory. When he has to step back, when he has to, you know, again, an album he's not on really at all is Holland. Like in the throes of his illness at that point, when you take his element out of it, what do you have left? What do you have left? And I think that's a super difficult position to be in, especially with someone who has demonstrated that he can chart the course for what pop music can be. On something like Beach Boys Love You, he's ahead of New Wave by like 10 years at least. It's kind of incredible. His predictive powers, his musical theory powers. So the fact that he was never 100% and able to just send this all through, it changes the trajectory of the music, and it kind of changes the specialness of them. Like you end up getting weird stuff. Like he's like David Byrne in that he's interested in like minor emotions and little random things. Busy Doing Nothing is a perfect encapsulation of like what's concerning to Brian Wilson, the man who once said that his favorite comedy movie was Norbit. Both the most recent movie he had seen and the best movie that he'd seen.
Yeah. Yeah, that I remember reading that little tidbit, and I was like, "There's just no way he wasn't serious."
No, he's a funny guy. He was always
Funny bastard.
Guy.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe that Norbit, like the horrendous movie.
It's funny. Like, let's get away from me, reporter.
Incredible.
You see any movies lately? Yeah, Norbit. You have any favorite movies? Yeah, Norbit. Leave me alone.
You think of his poor sweet delivery, like I could see his face so well when he says it. Yeah, Norbit. Just incredible. I don't know, to put a point on that whole thing, I guess, like really looking at this playlist that we sent you as like Brian Wilson the composer, like it kind of transcends the Beach Boys. Like you can look at the trajectory of their career, where they went individually, what the band did, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the most like the best way I can describe it is Tanner sent me a video of the Beach Boys as they are now after Brian's death. It's Mike Love with the naming rights to it, and then a bunch of so-and-sos that no one can name. Dude, I can't even tell you what song they were doing when you sent it to me. What was it?
I think it was "Wouldn't It Be Nice," which is one of my all-time favorite.
Yeah,
I think you're right. And it's just these jabronis in the crowd waving American flags, and Mike Love and a bunch of people you've never heard of being the Beach Boys. And that to me is what the Beach Boys ultimately ends up when you don't have the creative engine that is the Wilsons, but Brian Wilson specifically. So really for me, this is a conversation about a composer, the stuff he did, the stuff that he was interested in making, like themes he was interested in writing about, and the way he executed this music. And I'll tell you guys another thing. I don't want to force it, but if we wanted to listen to a couple cuts together and like talk over them to prove our points, we have that right. I have Spotify up. I can share my screen. We can listen to anything off the playlist. So just putting that out there.
Yeah, I'd be down.
Yeah, where do we start?
I mean, it depends. Do we want to do it in somewhat chronological order? When I made this list and sent it to Tanner, I was like, the evolution of it is kind of the fun thing because it never becomes like unrecognizable. What you're getting in Pet Sounds is kind of like the same Brian you're getting in Beach Boys Love You, which is kind of where we capped it. It's kind of the last gasp of like the great Brian Wilson and Beach Boys. So I think the chronology is interesting because there's a through line that's all Brian Wilson, and it's just the times kind of changed around him. He had this singular focus, and he was just doing stuff along the way. Again, by the end of his career, he had like predicted new wave. He had come out with new wave before that was a concept in anyone's mind. So I say if anyone's got anything earlier on, we could kind of start there and point stuff out.
So I think what I would like to listen to is that I Just Wasn't Made for These Times.
Okay.
Because I think that's one of the ones that really kind of opened my eyes to like what kind of songwriter like he was.
Geoff, I'm so glad because this is one that I forgot to include, and I texted Alex like, it's like I fucked up. I forgot to include a song.
No, it says you put it on there.
No, I know, but I put it on at a different time. I put it on like 3 days late. I was like, oh, fuck it. I was like driving to work, and I was like, shit, I forgot to put. It wasn't made for these times on here. It's the whole thing.
All right, so I Just Wasn't Made for These Times. Let's do it.
I keep looking for a place to fit in where I can speak my mind. And I've been
What's that instrument? Like the chimey instrument.
That I won't leave behind. They say I got brains, but they ain't doing me no good. I wish they
well, I'll just look it up.
I think I got something good going for myself.
Did I make this too loud? Can anyone hear anyone else?
A little loud.
Sometimes I feel very sad. Sometimes I feel very sad. Sometimes
Is that a little better?
I could go down a little bit more. What about you, Geoff?
Live podcasting, folks.
We'll just edit it. We're fine.
Fuck it.
Go back and start the song over again when
Yeah?
we get it at a good level. Yeah, and then just cut it. Geoff, how was that audio level for you?
It could go down a little bit more.
I think it could go down a little bit for me too.
All right, how about this?
Perfect for me.
Yeah.
Geoff, talk a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Zip. Here we go with I just wasn't. Here we go with I just wasn't made for these times.
I keep looking for a place to fit in where I can speak my mind.
All right.
Immediately depressing. Like,
Again, the thoughts of Brian Wilson, the guy who's part of this, like, we're going to have fun and go surfing band. You know what I mean?
I love Carl.
And I like
love
how
Carl forever.
clearly how much of a genius he is. But he says a line like, "They say I've got brains, but they ain't doing me no good."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and just
It's technically bad grammar. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Like I like that kind of clever wordplay there.
I'm trying to find out what that instrument is in there that's doing the little
Is it a harpsichord? Is that what that's called?
harpsichord.
Harpsichord.
Harpsichord, yeah.
I'll tell you, the Wikipedia page for Pet Sounds is long as fuck.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
telling me.
great, yeah.
You're telling me I've got it open over.
Instruments used, all of them.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Somebody did play harpsichord on it, but they won't tell us what song it was on. Cowards.
Damn it.
Coward.
Coward.
Yeah. Coward.
Glenn Campbell's on this one. On Pet Sounds.
Oh yeah. Well.
I
That's
turn with my fair weather.
Dude, fucking Carl, man.
Incredible. See, that's the thing
Yeah.
is Carl was, I think, the voice for Brian's music.
Yeah.
He
it's
was
very
the one.
it's very boyish how he sounds.
And
I would
it's
say
great.
Angelic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah,
his
very, very
own
good.
solo stuff, as much as I love it, and I know Tanner loves it too, it never like does him the same service vocally that singing for Beach Boys does. Now,
Yeah.
add to that the fact that he would smoke like 23 cigarettes at a time in a bundle.
Yeah. That'll do it. Too.
Carl.
Carl.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't figure out who plays the harpsichord.
Yeah. It
And I
just
think-
that's
I
what
think
it
we have
sounds.
we have a theremin solo happening right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just crazy. What he was like. Yeah, I can make this work in here. But then he did it.
Maybe they'll use it in the movie Norbit someday.
I can only hope.
Sounds awesome.
All right, Tanner. Which one are you gonna?
Oh well, I mean,
Who is
the next two are dynamite. I feel like we.
And the
like
thing
it-
is,
I
Hit
feel like
Good
good
Vibrations.
vibrations we probably
hit
don't
good
need.
vibrations.
You
I
think
don't
so?
know. Hit it.
I
need to
like.
hear
I
it.
love the way it starts.
well, and that's the thing is, I think we reserve the right to at this point to like scrub through and be like, yo, play me the
Yeah.
part at the end. I think Tanner and I especially are going to know like, oh, you don't want to miss this juicy part and point stuff out. So I think we can kind of like splice into some of these as we want. Don't be
Mhm.
afraid to call it out, gang.
Mhm.
If you want to stop, you want to fast forward.
Yeah,
just say it.
I want the intro of Good Vibrations, and I want the like ending.
Okay.
with the theremin.
Mm-hmm.
The Mitch's theremin solo. Okay.
Yeah, we were like, Mitch, gotta learn the theremin, dude.
He's perfect for it.
He used to air theremin
It was great.
to the song.
Yeah, that sweet baby Mitch. I can't imagine a more perfect. Maybe the flute for Mitch.
Yeah.
Or the pan flute.
He can't do the embouchure. He's got to use his hands.
All right. Enough about Mitch's meat hooks. Let's do Good Vibrations.
Fuck off immediately.
Imagine hearing this.
Yeah. And thinking it's going to go one way.
You're fucking Paul McCartney and John Lennon and you hear this.
Yeah.
Brian Wilson was probably one of the
You know
only
you're
guys
behind
that
the
could
eight
make
ball.
them, like, shit their pants. Like,
And then
The theremin.
and a little, like, the chugga chugga chugga
Yeah.
chugga 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 on the
Brian
strings.
build.
Yeah. So I think what it is, the Beatles, or sorry, Beach Boys, I did it again. The Beach Boys, like what made their harmonization so unique, I think at that time, and certainly a lot of people have done it since, is I think a lot of times it was, you would do a full octave, right? So someone would be singing in C and then you'd go like a full octave above them and harmonize that way. And I think what they did is they basically were harmonizing chords. I think was the idea, where it's like how you structure a G chord or something. They were each singing the note like in a chord that makes that chord up. So they could do a minor chord, and that's where they, you could make it sound almost a little dissonant and like a little creepy and a little weird on a lot of their songs. Then you could do it as a major chord for things like Surf and Safari and things like that. So it sounds really bright and peppy. But there wasn't, there's plenty of people that have probably done that since and probably inspired by the Beach Boys to do it. But I think before that point, that wasn't really happening.
I don't think anybody was like chord stacking and modulating and steering into the key changes and stuff like that. Again, imagine being any contemporary musician at the time hearing this and being like, we have to, all efforts must be doubled. We have to step up our game based on this, because no one was doing that. And the thing is, Good Vibrations was also at the time kind of considered like, that's a little goofy. It's the same thing as like Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, you think of it today as like, wow, what a hit. And at the time, the people who got it, but like the mainstream press and the teeny boppers and stuff weren't necessarily like, Good Vibrations is a paradigm shift. Like, the paradigm shifted a little more slowly in terms of how the public might appreciate something like that. But what they definitely appreciated was the way that like Lennon and McCartney then went back and were like, oh fuck. We have to do Sgt. Pepper now. And it was just kind of this like unspoken little round of gamesmanship between the two bands. And Brian Wilson kicked it all off. And like, let's go to the little chanting section of this. I want to find it. Yeah, okay, in here. You'll hear all the layers. You can hear all the stuff that the Beatles cribbed from this, man.
And then this build-up is insane.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, just...
We're not in the same song anymore.
No.
We're singing about Good Vibrations, but what is this? It sounds nothing like what we were listening to.
I love this part just makes me feel good.
Yeah. And then
Good Vibrations, man.
That's exactly what it is.
Oh shit, we're back in the song we started in. Come on.
Yeah.
he found the way to modulate and key change and just get you back there before you even realize you're back to the start. And then let's have some goodies here at the end.
How about here? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, how do you think of this?
And then the strings at the end here.
Theremin solo, baby.
Yeah. Like, how do you even think of this?
Come on.
Like, that's the thing where you have to put yourself in, because it's like we've listened to like Jordy Greep and people like that these days, and they're just like super progressive, like off the wall kind of stuff. But does any of that ever happen without something like Good Vibrations? Because like, imagine hearing a song where you go in 3 different places throughout a song, like in that time period, that just wasn't happening. And that's why. Yeah, go ahead.
It's only 3.5 minutes long. They take you on this ride, and it's just like jammed in, like just.
Yeah, I wish that I had the capacity to like think on the level it would take to write a song like that.
That's the problem, is like you feel like such a clod trying to talk about it, because you can hear things, you can call them out, but you sound like Simple Jack. It makes my eyes rain. Like you can't properly express what the music theory is. And in this instance, like trying to use it to explain something in Tyler Childers, be like, he did a minor fifth there, like that, whatever. But in the music of Brian Wilson, you're like, oh God, I wish I had his language, because it's so specific and it relies on it. So it makes you feel like a clod trying to talk about it. But I think it's the ability to take these like pretty simple lyrics and simple concepts and make them musically extraordinary. So you can have a song like In My Room from, back in the day, and it's like, it's a fairly simple, still on the surfy side, but I'm safe in my room. It's like, well, that's not going to get girls. Brian hides in his room. Like, thought we were having a beach blanket bingo party, bitch.
Because Mike Love was probably pissed.
Mike Love is like, Brian, you're scaring away the chicks, man.
Write another song about surfing.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what I want to surf on.
Guy's a creep. The uncle of basketball player Kevin Love.
Yeah, that's why I hate Kevin Love. Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah.
That's why his ankle exploded. But you trace like the like I said before, like you trace the different time periods. So like Good Vibrations was for music people a quantum leap, to then you go into Beach Boys do Wild Honey, and it's like, all right, well, this is a little more soulful, a little more rocked up, a little more conventional. It's not quite as weird and off the map. They're off the map like they were doing on Pet Sounds or Smiley Smile.
But also, Smiley Smile comes out September 18th, 1967. Wild Honey comes out December 18th, 1967.
It's pretty, yeah.
Bands were cranking albums out back then.
They just go, here's 2.
Yeah, like the Beatles, it was like what, 2 a year for a while, 2 or 3 a year. I mean, they were only around for 5 years, and they got how many albums? No. I mean, they were putting out albums back then.
Well, then you get to like the kind of like trippy dippy hippie flirtation here. You know what I mean? Like I think particularly for me, one of the associations I made for a while was like, oh, once you enter the hippie era, you kind of never leave, right? But the Beach Boys really only dipped a toe, I feel like, in something like Friends. That was their, like, after that, things kind of stayed more rock conventional, and maybe that's partly to their detriment too, in terms of like long-term success, because again, after Beach Boys Love You, I don't think we get any more great albums. We don't. I think I can conclusively say we don't get any more great albums.
No, we don't. No, never again. That's it. That's over.
We really did try to like truck with the essentials, and you could even argue like, well, Sunflower is not essential. 2020 is not essential. I think people sleep on Sunflower. 2020 is a mixed bag for me. Sunflower, I think, is pretty fucking good. But you look at like, so what are they? What's their hippy dippy album? You have this great, complicated compositional triumph in Pet Sounds and Smiley Smile, Good Vibrations, and then you get into your hippie era. What does that sound like? Well, it sounds like Be Here in the Morning. You know what I'm saying?
I think they should have. I think Brian Wilson should have done an album with Pink Floyd.
Oh, Jesus.
It's been such a long day, so you better hurry home. Lit all my incense, and I wish you were home. Only 5 minutes, and you walk through my
And
door.
here's where the Brian Wilson kicks in.
Be here in the morning.
Be here and make my life.
Everybody hit your harmonies.
Massive chord. Yeah, massive chord.
Come on. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that. So
He can't help himself. Even in the hippie era, he can't help himself.
So for that song in particular was one that I was like, I just couldn't. I really, throughout any of it, I always appreciated like the harmonization, because that just always sounds so cool. It just like hits your ear in such a different way with the Beach Boys. But that song in particular, I was like, this one just didn't do it for me too much. Certainly not compared. Like Busy Doing Nothing, I felt like. So Be Here in the Morning felt like kind of like tossed off in a bad way. Like they should have let that bake a little longer. Busy Doing Nothing was tossed off in the best way. Like that's like the underdone cookie. Maybe not the way it was supposed to be done, but it came out perfect. And I think, I don't know if there's really people would see that much of a difference between the two songs, but it's just something about how Be Here in the Morning like just throws those harmonization parts in there and they sound so good, but then it sounds like kind of dissonant like when they're doing the verses. And I'm just like, Beach Boys I'm used to sounding like beautiful, and this like this I don't know who was doing the singing of the higher part there, which of the brothers? Do you guys know which one?
That's a good question. It could be Carl.
Probably Carl.
Yeah.
Whatever way that he
Could
was
be
singing.
Al. Could be Al.
Could be Uncle Al, yeah.
Yeah, so whoever was doing the singing in that way, that just did not hit my eardrums, I'm sure, the way they were hoping.
Well, with that and another song we didn't put on the playlist, Little Bird. We almost drove Mitchell insane listening to it. Please stop listening to the Bird song.
And then we would just torture him with it by just singing it at random times.
Just three dudes being like, please don't, I'm having nightmares. Which I think, I agree with you where it's like you're used to these like beautiful harmonies that all stack really well and mash and sound very beautiful. I love that he change one or two things and it becomes discordant. There's a beauty in the fact that like that wasn't a mistake. So even when like you say like, oh, this sounds tossed off, it was all by design. Whether or not I don't think his design was, oh, I want it to sound tossed off. It sounded the way that he wanted it to sound, that they wanted it to sound.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what you got out of it, that's what you got out of it. But I guarantee that this thing was structured right down to exactly the way they wanted it. That's the feature to me about Brian Wilson is like, he's got a vision. He's an obsessive producer. He looked at Phil Spector and said, hold my drink. And so I think that's one thing you're guaranteed in any song in any era is like, it's full Brian. It's what Brian wanted to do. So trying to do Smile almost killed him. Smile notwithstanding, what you're getting is when you're listening to this is Brian and what Brian wanted.
In that, I think there's always, I never felt like with any of these songs that he didn't do exactly what he was trying to do with it, because the amount of detail involved in even something like like Good Vibrations, like the amount of detail involved with, you can find so many layers in that song, like the vocal harmonies, like how many parts he created in those vocal harmonies. There is so much thought that goes into it that you can't possibly think that the songs just didn't have thought put into them, and he just kind of just wrote them and put them out. It's like there's certain things that he could make it sound a certain way, but it was always through the same process, which is, I'm going to make this as perfect as I possibly can, or at least to his ear. And to his ear, that song may have been perfect, and to mine, it was not.
Well, no accounting for taste, I suppose.
Tanner's upset over there.
Tanner's sitting there with his little mic on, doing hands.
I have no words.
Would it make you feel better if we listened to another Zippity song?
Sure, fire one.
Okay. This is one of the most moving songs that I've heard from Brian Wilson and from the Beach Boys, and didn't know of it for a really long time. But when I keyed in on it, I was like, holy shit, this is something really special. This is one of the most complex songs I think any American composer has ever written, and definitely one of the most complex that Brian Wilson has made. It's just from moment to moment, the way that its DNA changes, and the way that he's like totally mastered the chord changes, the modulation, like hitting the key changes at the perfect time. It always feels like maybe this can't be contained. Maybe this thing's going to topple if you take one too many turns, and it never does. And it's like Sunflower is unfairly slept on because of this song. This song alone makes Sunflower a hidden gem.
I'm thinking about this whole world.
And again, Carl.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Different people everywhere. And we change again. Like, come on.
And that, I think, Carl being able to execute that key change consistently every time it needs to happen,
yes,
is almost as impressive as Brian Wilson's ability to write it.
Yep, he keeps up.
Yeah.
He's the only one that could have sung this. And we're back. Bum, 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 bum. It just keeps changing.
Yeah, and this, like, what I hear a lot in this is what a lot of, like, 90s radio rock and roll turned out to be.
Listen to the drum part. The drum part he's hitting, like, double hits on the bass drum.
Mm-hmm. Like, and then you get the little, there's your surf rock.
Yeah, it's very good.
The ending. And you take us out a cappella. Get the fuck out of my face. Get the fuck out of my face. That is a perfect song. That is a perfect song. We often ask, what is the criteria for the perfect song? I just played it for you. I don't ever have to explain it again. That is a perfect song.
And it's less than 2 minutes long.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's just like the perfect, like synthesis, like the nuclei. Like, it's just the little teardrop of what a perfect song is.
Jeff, what do you think?
So I like that one a lot. I think that makes a huge statement as far as what he's capable of. And I think, when we talk about the right vehicle to sing those songs, like, there might have been somebody else that he picked to sing the songs that just did not work for them. Like, imagine if Jim Steinman had picked someone other than Meatloaf to sing. I don't want to.
I would.
You know what I mean? I feel like it might be that kind of level of, like, you had the right, like, instrument to use in Carl, and you had the right person playing it in Brian. And I think there's it almost feels like it was just kind of supposed to be that way. Like, he's pulling these melodies out that I know how inventive they are, but it just feels like they've always existed. Like, it just feels like, oh, he just unearthed these things. Like, he discovered this stuff. Like, it wasn't like he just made it up. It seems, because that makes it sound like he was, even more, off the wall in a different way than he actually was. It to me, it sounds like he's almost like writing the future of music when you listen to that. Like, there's so many songs in the 90s like that, like those just kind of pop radio rock songs that sounded so much like that. Like, there's so many of those. And I think to look back with how long ago he was writing this stuff, and then how much it's still part of the fabric of music. I mean, I feel like I think with his death, and it brought a lot of people to the realization that they're maybe not as influential as the Beatles or like Led Zeppelin in rock music, but they are extremely influential in pop music. Like, think about a band like ABBA. Do they really exist in the way they do without like harmonization being such a huge part of pop radio thanks to the Beach Boys? I mean, there's so many things that you could point back to them and say, I don't think this genre of music would be this way if it didn't start here with this. And I think there's, the Beatles harmonized extremely well, but there's just something different about the Beach Boys that makes it sound like they just were the best at it.
For me, first off, Sunflower came out in 1970. And there's like borderline punk rock drumming happening on that song. 1970. The Beach Boys are just our guys. They're our American guys. Like, if the U.S. were to face England in a soccer match in the World Cup, it's Beach Boys versus Beatles. It's Beach Boys versus Led Zeppelin. Like, they're our guys. These are the guys we root for. They're the American guys that entered this. It was all British rock forever. like that whole Beatles, Stones,
they made America
Zeppelin.
great.
You said, yeah. Well, they eventually did, because Mike Love, big douchebag guy, you probably suck. I'm not even gonna say it.
I'm not saying it. A lot of people.
I don't think
I'm not saying it. You know what I was going to say. The Beach Boys were our like home side guys. And we're not even into the sad of Surf's Up, where I didn't put the ultimate.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude!
I didn't put the ultimate sad song on it.
Neither did I.
But I'd love for you to react to it sometime, Geoff.
Okay.
It is brutal, and they couldn't get anybody to sing it.
Oh, wow. Do we want to do a day in the life of a tree?
Do it. I'm always down to listen.
All right. You asked for this, Geoff.
Okay.
This is sung by the band's manager because none of the guys could sing it sad enough.
And boy, he does a good job.
Okay, well.
Come on.
For years my limbs stretched to the sky, a nest for birds to sit and sing.
This is crazy.
But now my branches suffered.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is Brian thriving.
Yeah, he's cooking.
But then you get this whimsical shit.
My sap was rich and I was strong.
We're wistful about the good times and being young.
From seed to tree, I grew so tall through wind and rain I could not fall.
But
now my branches suffer and my leaves don't offer
This is the chorus.
poetry to men of song.
Technically, yes.
yeah, unconventionally structured.
Trees like me weren't meant to
But it is about the pop.
Yeah.
if all this world can give pollution and slow down. Oh Lord, I lay me down. No life's left to be found. There's nothing.
It's supposed to sound like a funeral, right?
Yes. Is that Al?
I think that's Al. So even when he's ready to fucking end it all, he's writing music like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very sad. That's very sad. That
And
was
This is so like I think it was it Al Jardine? I think his contention was that Brian wrote this about himself. Brian is the tree. And then
Mhm.
someone else said, I don't think that's accurate. And Brian has said, I didn't write this about myself. This third party said it's not about him, but he identifies with the tree. He wrote the song and then he listened to it and he was like, oh fuck. I mean, because again, he can sing about small concerns like I'd better keep my space tidy,
Mhm.
and then he can also
Or like
hyper-
washing your feet,
right,
Yeah.
eating your vegetables.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
that's crazy.
he can make big sounds out of the smallest things, and then he can make the big stuff. I mean, you asked like, is this supposed to be a funeral thing? It got awful big right at the end, like the celebration of the life cycle of the tree, man. And
Mhm.
it just
A dirge. It
The
had that
dirge.
Yeah.
to it.
the guy.
Yeah,
Can you
nice.
believe the guy that wrote this?
Oh my god, this fucking
Come on, you know what everybody came for. You love it, Geoff.
I do not.
You love it.
No, what I did love on this album was the I'll Bet He's Nice.
Oh, you like that one?
Yeah.
Oh.
That another sad one.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure
but
is.
but very I just their perspective, like I guess the POV of that song, just very interesting. And again, I feel like probably not something that's going on a whole lot back then.
Well, I'll tell you what else wasn't going on a lot back then is looking at this, I'm like, Tanner and I actually held back because there are songs about the solar system. There are songs about watching Johnny Carson. There are songs about him giving his daughter a bath.
Mm-hmm.
Honking down the highway.
Honking down the gosh darn highway.
Yeah.
There are some like very weird random, again, he's like David Byrne, where he like takes the little thing and is like, I could make a song out of that now. So, as he just did with Ding Dang. It's a weird album. Beach Boys Love You is a weird album. It's the one that the gang basically said, Brian's our guy. Brian's going through a hard time. Brian's been writing. We're going to let him quarterback this one. And I think maybe this could be, I don't mean to be like they did it with ulterior motives. Mike Love definitely did. And then I think the Wilson brothers were like, we love and support our brother. And Mike Love was like, yes, we love and support him. But then maybe if he snaps out of this schizophrenia, we can make another hit album. So let's just do whatever Brian wanted to do.
Do another Kokomo.
Kokomo was
pre Kokomo.
Yeah, this is pre Kokomo.
That's the Stamos years.
Yeah.
Great song.
Who even wrote that? Was that a Bruce Johnson too?
That has Mike Love all over it.
Yeah, Mike Glove.
Yeah.
Mike Love the glove. Man.
Yeah.
Wasn't this album supposed to be like Brian Wilson Loves You? And then the Beach Boys came back to him and were like, hey, we'll do it. We'll do it. We love you.
Yeah, we love you and we want to. There's like liner notes where they talk about like, this was all Brian. This was Brian's vision. Basically, we sang on this. We didn't really play anything. It was all him. He did so much of this electronically and produced this. And we came in and sang what he told us to sing and participated.
Kokomo was written by Mike Love and 4 fucking randos.
Yeah, I knew it.
Great.
I knew that. I had Mike Love all over it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Terry Melcher, aka the guy that knew Manson.
Hell
the guy
yeah.
who screwed Manson, I believe, on a deal.
Hell yeah.
Because Brian wanted to, or Dennis was associated.
Dennis was hanging with Manson.
Dennis was hanging with Manson. Don't worry about it.
You can hang with Manson. You can hang with Manson.
It's
It's
fine.
fine.
Did he write a song for them?
He wrote a song that
He did. Yeah,
Dennis Wilson then contributed to 2020 that sounds an awful lot like the Charles Manson song, which I have to be honest with you, slaps.
Yeah.
It's
Crazy. I'm telling you, the craziest ones always write the best ones.
It's a crazy what could have been, man.
Yep. That's how it goes.
Yep. Well, you know, this I think we're probably bumping up around an hour on this episode.
Yeah. Do you want to hit one more and then we send the people home?
Yeah, I mean, what are we thinking here?
I
don't know.
Jeff. I think a little God Only Knows.
Little God Only Knows?
I think that's the one that, everybody keeps referencing, like everybody talks about when he passed away. So let's give the people what they want. There's a reason that it is looked at as one of the finest examples of harmonization ever put on a record.
And again, another song that really like changed the game for a lot of people, for a lot of musicians.
I remember playing, and Tanner, you probably remember this, but BioShock Infinite. And you're walking through one of the towns and there's like the barbershop quartet singing God Only Knows. And it's like a very kind of haunting version of it because you're in this really dystopian kind of society. Just a very, very cool moment in video games, thanks to God Only Knows.
Yep. And they're like, God, like this exists in the universe that the Beach Boys did. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic.
All right, let's get a little taste of this phantasm.
always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I'd be without you. If you should ever leave,
they love the little like horse sounds.
It's just such a good like balance between being a like love song and a like a desperation song. You know, like he's singing it very sweetly that God only knows what I'd do without you, but it's like knowing what you know about Brian Wilson, it's sort of like God only knows what I would do without you. Like some dark stuff probably. You know, and I just feel like this song is such a good balance of that, of like a guy sounding about like he's about to go off the rails, like it's about to be a Dexter episode.
It's like the ultimate love song.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be about like your wife your girlfriend, your parents. Anybody that's ever meant anything to you in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful way of expressing the sentiment of like life would not be worth living without you, and not in like a sad, scary, unalive way. It's just like it wouldn't be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
What good would living
God only
do me?
knows. Yeah. God only knows, man. I see Caroline No as way more of like a love song.
Mm-hmm.
And like God only knows could be a song for the boys.
It is a song for the boys.
It's true.
Tanner.
I mean, God only knows what I'd be without you guys.
Yeah.
For God's sakes. Like
God's sakes.
God's sakes. I can keep saying it. God only knows.
Yeah, it's just I think, because we're bumping up to it like close to an hour. This is a good pod. This is some good American pod.
This was some nice pod.
Yeah. And I think, for me, like not having dove into Brian Wilson before this point, like you guys had, I was left extremely impressed and like kind of a much better understanding of why he kind of is on the pedestal that he's on when it comes to not only just American songwriters, but just songwriting in general. Whether you're going all the way back to the first people that like banged rocks and sticks together in caves, or you're talking about like Mozart or Beethoven, or you're talking about Bob Dylan or Chuck Berry, and these people that kind of like revolutionized things as they came along. I think the Beach Boys are a group, and especially driven by Brian Wilson, because I think clearly their output with him is far superior than their output without him. And I think someone like Brian Wilson having a vehicle like the Beach Boys of, a group of people that could, for the most part, really truly execute what he was thinking of. It just is a perfect storm. He may have written the music, but it's like that could have been like a fart in the wind if he didn't have the people around to like kind of bring that to fruition. And I think having it, and then the credit goes to the Beach Boys too, of being a bunch of little subbies and just doing whatever Daddy Brian wanted them to do. And I think that's admirable of them to be able to take a knee like that. And I think if you can go through and listen to Brian Wilson's music and not hear why it was so influential and not hear why people still look at it as really earth-shattering kind of stuff, then I think you're really missing the point. All you're hearing is kind of how simple it sounds compared to some things these days, and not really paying attention to the context it came out in and how much that changed everything after.
And also everyone played on everything on the, like, there's no pads. There's no like synthing. These are orchestras, these are hired musicians, like the hired guns, the wrecking crew that he brings in on top of the Beach Boys, which were like they're a pretty good band. They could play instruments, like, and they still play. Like Al Jardine's still out there playing. Bless him.
Bless him.
Bless him.
I saw Brian Wilson, thankfully, before he passed. I saw him live one time. To make that music, there were like 15 guys on the stage. Like, you listen to a Beach Boys album, you're like, oh, it's 5 guys, and they're playing the guitar and dancing in a blue striped shirt. And then it's like, oh, no, there's like orchestra, there's horns. Like, they are the American, I don't know, they're the high watermark for American bands.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's going to take the baton? Maybe the Foo Fighters. I don't know. I would also like to state that was a tongue-in-cheek comment. I do not like the Foo Fighters that
much. Alex can clip that however he wants, my friend.
Tongue in Dave Grohl's butt cheek, maybe.
I'd rather it be in his cheek than in his ass.
Don't want to be his monkey wrench. I think for me, it's the Beach Boys. It's a weird way to put it, but musically at the time, they were kind of like the straw that stirs the drink. They were making the interesting stuff that maybe wasn't necessarily always commercial, but a result of, like, you look at someone like Brian Wilson, and you could probably, I don't know this for certain, but if you could talk to Jerry Garcia and Frank Zappa,
Get them in a room now.
as different from one another as they could be. Zappa didn't like that his band members were sneaking off getting high with the Dead when they shared like bills in San Francisco. I guess it happened like twice that Zappa and Grateful Dead like played the same bill. A little bit of trivia for you guys, but they could not be more different. Their approaches could be not be more different. Their philosophies, their personalities. You got these two guys, and whether or not they're aware of it, they're influenced by the stuff Brian Wilson was doing, even like in a contemporary sense. Like, yeah, it's both the 60s, but as time goes on and as you're experimenting with your own thing, you're hearing what else is out there. So some people are creating a response to Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys to up their game. Some people are saying, I want to do the exact opposite. Some people have no idea and are growing based off of, you know, these other things they hear. They're Jerry Garcia's, they're Frank Zappa's. It's all when the Beach Boys entered the ecosystem, they changed the balance of power. I know that sounds dramatic, but you talk about how it was all the like British invasion, you know, the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and the Stones and all of that, introducing Beach Boys to the American ecosystem, I think is instrumental in change. I don't think you get these other movements without it. I think they showed what's possible and what you can do with productions. You have like Brian Wilson, the composer, and then you have Brian Wilson, the producer. And you see that it can all be done on different budget levels, and there's like no real limit to the creativity. So no one else can put the limit on you. Don't limit yourself and get out there with your weird stuff. Beach Boys are the straw that stirs the drink. They're like both the standard and the person that the group that kind of made this interesting and made everybody have to up their game. So yeah, I think calling Brian Wilson the American Mozart's appropriate, and calling the Beach Boys like in many ways like the A1 premier American band. If you want to go that far, I think it's more appropriate to say the Brian Wilson Mozart thing. I hate to just be like, I'm assigning all the talent to him, but like, if we're being real, what are the Beach Boys without Brian? You know what I mean? Love them all except for Mike Love.
Ironic.
What are they without Brian Wilson? It's the singular compositional musical genius of a very smart, very sweet, very tortured, very talented guy.
Yeah, I hope that you folks out there have learned as much as I learned about Brian Wilson, and I do encourage you to get out there and listen to a lot of Brian Wilson. I think if you are a music lover like we are, you're going to find a lot of things that you're already familiar with in your life that you're going to feel maybe started right there with him and the Beach Boys. It is a really a seminal point in American music and in music in general. I do think, like Alex was saying, they were the straw that stirred the drink. I think without them, there's a lot of things that have happened since that we wouldn't have had. Maybe music stays a lot more boring. It'd be interesting to see maybe what it would be like without them, but I'm not sure I'd want to know.
God only knows what we'd be without them, right, Tanner?
God only knows, man. They're the best.
They're the best. Well, do you gentlemen have any final thoughts for the people about the Beach Boys?
I've given mine. How about you, Tanner?
Yeah.
Just God bless Brian Wilson. That's all.
God bless Brian Wilson. And folks, make sure you check out all the rest of our videos. You'll find the rest of our on the record stuff at youtube.com/C/out on that line. You can comment down below. Maybe tell us your favorite Brian Wilson song, your favorite Beach Boys song, maybe a favorite Beach Boys moment. Just maybe you're just like us, listen to it around the car with your parents growing up, and you weren't aware of how deep this river went. Well, go find out. Tell us about it in the comments. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe so you get those notifications anytime we post something, which we promise is fairly often. And make sure that you catch us next time.